The Chicago Bulls have already taken us on an emotional roller coaster over the course of a season that hasn't even lasted 30 games yet. From going 13-3 over their prior 16 to a 3-game winning streak, elite offense, and confidence, and now trade rumors popping up again. We're breaking down what's changed for the Chicago Bulls over this recent streak, what's real, what still worries me, and why trusting this team is still the hardest thing to do as a Bulls fan. We're going to get to all plus the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. The Chicago Bulls went 13-3. They won 3 games over a 16-game stretch. From that, they're now on a 3-game winning streak. And it's been a roller coaster ride all season long, right? The Bulls find themselves now 2 games below 500 yet again, and they've won 4 out of their last 5 games. And once again, it's hard to trust that with the Chicago Bulls. But we're going to talk about what's changed with the Bulls. We're going to look at the raw analytics and stats. Then, of course, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and based off that. So, of course, health has been a big thing for the Bulls, right? They've now had 2 games of a fully healthy roster, minus Noah Essengay, who's never going to play a big role into this team. And they've gotten progressively healthier over this 5-game stretch, which now has led to the last 2 games of us being basically a fully healthy team. Now, I always assume is still on a minutes restriction, so there's still even that aspect. So injuries are still affecting this team a little bit with that, right? But outside of just the health aspect, this team has gotten back to playing with the identity that we saw over the initial 5-game winning streak and going 6-1 over their first 7 games with this team, and that's good to see. What has changed, right? I think when you look at this, the team's gotten unselfish on the court. The energy and effort are back there, but there are also some tangible things, right? Energy and effort is one of those things that you have to see. And for those that don't really watch games, it may be hard to understand how much this does impact this Bulls team and how they and the success rate that they have with what they're doing. But let's talk about the things that are objective. Let's talk about numbers. Over the last 5 games, the Bulls have the number 1 rated offense in the NBA at 125.3. They're number 1 in true shooting percentage at 62.7 and number 1 in effective field goal shooting percentage as well at 60.4%. They're 11th in rebounding and, more importantly, 4th in defensive rebounding. That's important for this team because we know how bad they were defensive rebounding, how much they allowed teams to get back in games with second chance points, things like that. This team has gotten back to playing not just good offense, but elite offense. And that was something that wasn't necessarily there even at the start of the beginning of the season. The Bulls were a really good offense, but not elite. And we're going to talk about how they got there here in a second, right? Because I think there are some things that are definitely sustainable about that, but we'll talk about what's sustainable, but what's not. But just looking at this 5-game streak, going 4-1 over the 5 games, a 3-game winning streak over the 5 games, that's what the numbers are. The Bulls are elite offensively where it stands right now, and pretty damn good rebounding and defensive rebounding on top of that. The Bulls are also 9th in assist percentage, which is really good, but 8th in turnover percentage, which means they aren't allowing the number of turnovers that they allowed during the losing streak, and that's really good to see from this team. Also, that you're moving the ball around, but you're not turning the ball over. You're playing with the fastest pace in the NBA as well, which, take that for what you will when it comes down to that. The Bulls are averaging 19.8 fast break points per game. Again, some of that's sustainable. We'll talk about that. Also, the Bulls are averaging almost 5.1 blocks per game over this 5-game stretch. So there you go. Now, with that, there still are some signs for concern. Even with the Bulls playing the elite offense that they're playing, they're 25th in defensive rating. Now, that's a little bit of a caveat to that, right? They allowed 150 points last night against the Atlanta Hawks, which pushed them up. If you take that game from the Hawks away, even make it kind of more normal to the amount of points the Bulls have been allowing over the stretch, the Bulls have the 13th best defensive rating in the entire NBA over this 5-game stretch. So, that's taking that game away. With that game included, they're 25th, but a 150-point performance by the Atlanta Hawks is going to do that. You can't ignore it. I just say that for reference, right? So for the reference, Up until that game, the Bulls were playing the 13th, or had the 13th best defensive rating over this streak. That game, of course, knocked that down. If you take that game down to the average, the Bulls have still been a top half of the league defense over that stretch of time. So you got to look at those things. But that, again, that's just for reference. The numbers are the numbers. What could have, should have, would have, all that type of stuff. But, those are the numbers. So what is sustainable about this run for the Chicago Bulls? That is the million-dollar question for this team, right? And while we've seen stretches of this team looking good to great at times, it never maintains all the way. And that's been something that's been an identity of this team basically under Billy Donovan's whole run. I'm saying it happened before then too, but we're talking about this team. Basically under Billy Donovan's whole run, we have this time period where we will beat really, really good teams and look great. And then we'll lose some games and some stinkers, and then we kind of get down on ourselves, right? And typically you have to have top-end talent, which the Bulls don't have. While I say they're not losing games because of lack of talent, they don't have top-end talent. So when you have a superstar, that's usually really that or a star that helps you sustain your level of play, right? And again, no knock on Josh Giddey. He is becoming a star. You just got to see him do it for an entire season and sustain a little bit more. But he's putting up superstar numbers. I'm just not ready to give him that label yet. Got to win more games under that. That's just my personal thing. No knock on Josh Giddey. I'd say that about any player that was on this team that they've been inconsistent. So sometimes Josh Giddey fans, they take it personally when you say stuff like that, and you gotta calm them down a little bit, right? But so you need that, or you need top end coaching that can squeeze every ounce of the talent in your roster. The Bulls right now don't have either, right? And so that's a little, of course, sign for concern over this. On top of that, for what it's worth, over the last 5 games, 52% of the Chicago Bulls shots have come in the restricted area, which is something that I do think is sustainable because it's what they should have been doing all the time. Now, I mean, when you look at it, the Bulls fluctuated from almost 50% of the shots being threes to now over 50, almost 52% of the shots being in the restricted area or in the paint. That means that this team is attacking more. And I personally do feel that is something that you can control more times than not. Now, the caveat to that is teams will go into a zone defense. And when they do, you have to know how to bust that zone defense. So it's either through passing and movement to move that zone around, or that's through shooting the ball well when they push you out into the perimeter. And so the Bulls are going to have to learn how to do that, because if they keep up playing offense in this way and attacking at this rate, teams are definitely going to try to force them, use the zone to force them to shoot and become jump shooters. And the Bulls haven't, typically historically done that well. Now, the last 2 games, the Bulls have shot crazy from 3, 48% last night from 3 against the Atlanta Hawks, which is ridiculous, right? But the good sign of it and what's sustainable is the Bulls aren't settling for threes, unforced, right? Now, sometimes a defense is going to force you to take more threes, but the Bulls were self-inflicting that a lot of times, during the 3-13 stretch. They were self-inflicting that to settling for bad shots, those type of things. The Bulls aren't doing that as much. The Bulls have also limited turnovers and are back to playing really connected as a team. And so those things look really, really sustainable for this team with the way that they're playing right now. But like I said, there's still those signs of concern. The defensive rating being something, even though, like I said, you take that away, the 13th best defensive rating in the league outside of that 150-point game, but you still allowed 150 points. You don't just get to wash that from your ledger. You did allow that. And I'll say this too, like there are still times where the Bulls have, gotten down while the turnovers are down overall. There's still times where the Bulls allow or have a few bad possessions in a row, and then they don't defend well on top of that after turning the ball over, and then you're allowing teams to get back in the game, and that's what the Bulls have to really work on over this stretch. But the offense has been utterly elite. The defense has had its holes, but the offense has been utterly elite for this team, and that's by numbers. That's not even that's objective. That's not even subjective. That is what the numbers are telling us. So then it gets to this point, right? What has happened over this time? And when you look at it, who has stepped up? And there have been 3 players for the Chicago Bulls that have really stepped up over this run. They're not the only ones, but I'm going to highlight 3 players. I'm going to talk about the team overall. Josh Giddey, Coby White, Matas Buzelis. And I know these are all players that elicit different responses from fans depending on how you feel about them, right? Josh Giddey, for example, is averaging 19.2 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds per game. Now, he's averaging a near triple-double for the season. He's been putting up big numbers all season long, but seeing Josh Giddey in this way and the way that he's been performing has been great. And I want to talk about his passing. Josh Giddey is creating 22.6 points off assist per game. So when you factor that in, he's averaging almost 20 points and creating 22 points off assists. That means 40 points per game just about, are coming from Josh Giddey between the scoring and creation. That's great to see. Josh Giddey has also got the turnover percentage way down lately as well, and that's something that you're going to see that could really help him as well. When you look at points created, and this is the thing for Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey is creating over this 5-game stretch, right? He is creating 4 points per game for Isaac Okoro, 5 points per game for Nikola Vucevic, 4 points per game for Kevin Huerter, 3 for Matas Buzelis, almost 3 for Zach Collins. He is getting everybody involved. That is a player that can make other players around him better, and that's good to see for Josh Giddey. And he's just being that player that, again, has kind of gotten back to attacking himself a little bit more, and you love to see that. And the thing with Josh Giddey, too, is a lot of what he's doing scoring-wise is off ball. Almost 57% of his scoring is assisted, whereas almost 43% are unassisted, and I like that. He's on average taking shots about 13 feet from the basket, and 63% of his offense is coming in the restricted area and in the paint, and he's still doing some things out on the perimeter. Bulls as a whole don't really shoot in the mid-range, so that's not a thing there. I would like us to actually do that a little bit more, but we're just starting to see that for Josh Giddey a lot better, and you love to see that. Almost 35% of his offense are layups, and then another 14% are floaters. Now, 45% are still jump shots, but he's a point guard. You're going to see a large percentage of his shots be that. Matas Buzelis is averaging 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game over this time period as well, and he's turned himself into one of the better weak side defenders in the league with those block shots here recently, and that's good to see from him. Still got some holes to his game, of course, but what Matas is doing that has been a lot better for him as well. Over this 5-game stretch, almost 50% of his shots are coming in the paint in the restricted area, and he's not settling for threes as much. Still 49% of his shots are coming from the three-point line, but he is converting that at a field goal shooting percent. The corner three he's converting at 50%. The above the break three at 40%. So he's shooting the three ball effectively right now, and he's understanding when to take those shots, and that's always going to be something that helps Matas Buzelis out, is when to take those three-point shots, and he's playing well. And oh, by the way, don't overlook, I know there are a lot of people, we're going to talk more about Coby here in a second. A lot of people don't like hearing this, but Coby White is balling, averaging 20 points, 19.8 points, 4.8 assists, and 4.6 rebounds per game. And for those that like to say that Coby White is selfish, here's the thing. Coby White is averaging almost 12 points created off assists per game, which is amazing to see there. His turnovers are 2.6 turnovers per game, but only less than one of those turnovers are rated as a bad pass turnover, meaning that something happens along that line to where it's not a bad pass, that either the player kind of fumbles it, doesn't get good control over it, maybe it's too early, a player shoots the passing lane, but overall, the turnovers, the quality of turnovers is getting better for him, for whatever that means for people. But these three players have been the engine at times for the Chicago Bulls. Josh Giddey with getting other players involved. Matas Buzelis between scoring himself and shot blocking. And Coby White specifically in third and fourth quarters has really been stepping up quite considerably here for the Chicago Bulls recently. And you love to see that for this team also. So you got to love that. And overall, you're just seeing this team just, again, play much better in the half court and as a team, and those are things that you really love to see as well from this team and them keep going. But I want to be clear, it's not just those three players at all either, right? Every player has been doing their job. While Josh Giddey and Coby are creating off assists, which is really good, the Bulls bench is averaging 48.4 points per game over this time, which is the highest in the NBA. They're almost 8 points per game higher than the next team below them as far as bench points. The Bulls bench has been a key. We talked about that coming into the season. The depth, Billy Donovan's talked about it. Those are all key things, and everybody is really playing their role really well right now for the Chicago Bulls, which is leading to better production, better performance, better everything. And like I said, you're getting players back healthy, so now you're even increasing your depth more. Now, that is throwing some players that are out of the lineup. P. Will, who was a big part of the rotation, this isn't that anymore, but that's kind of what you got to expect. Unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. You have a team that has as many players as the Chicago Bulls. I've heard people say, oh, well, the Bulls need to give players more minutes. No, here's what I'll say with this. It's not about playing more minutes to get more stats. That any player in the NBA can get more stats with more minutes. It's about refining it and becoming more effective. That's how you learn to become a winner. It's not about, hey, let's play him 15 more minutes a game so we can get him 10 more shots per game. It's about what do you make of this opportunity, and what you do with that opportunity, that's going to earn you more chances and more things and opportunities for us to go through you. That's the role. That's what you need to do for this team. And it seems like we're having better ebbs and flows of understanding that. Billy Donovan's done that with Nikola Vucevic as well. The double big lineup, something that Billy Donovan has really not done a lot. But the bench, Trey Jones has been amazing for the Chicago Bulls again. Zach Collins and Jalen Smith have been great for the Chicago Bulls. Again, we're just starting to see this thing start rounding out for this team where they're looking better. But like I said before, the thing isn't can they do it. It's how often they can do it and how much they can sustain it. That's always been a thing for this team. They've had these moments and glimpses of almost greatness, but then the lows are so low that it takes away from that. And that's part of the problem here, right? And like I said, that double big lineup as well is something I want to highlight real quick. They have played 38 minutes together. Zach Collins and Jalen Smith have played 38 minutes together on this season. Over that time, we have a net rating of plus 12, an offensive rating of 112, a defensive rating of 70 as well in that. And in games where we've played Jalen Smith and Zach Collins, we are 4-1 in those games where we've played a lineup of those guys together. I tell you what, that's what I love to see. And so we just got to see how much of this is going to be sustained by this team. It's good numbers, good stats, all that stuff is good, but how often can you do it is always the question with this team, and we're going to see what happens there. But let me know what you guys think over that. What do you think out of this and all the things we just threw at you? What's sustainable? What isn't sustainable? How do you feel about the Bulls in this 4-1 stretch that they've gone over these last 5 games? How long do you think that this can push? Do you think and now believe the Bulls may be able to get back above 500? Let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. We got one voicemail to get into, but before we get into that, I want to get into this. Marc Stein had a report yesterday in his Sunday blog in regards to the Bulls and Coby White's availability, saying this. The Bulls are more open than trading Coby White than ever. Doesn't mean they'll actually move him before February 15th trade deadline, but the Bulls have left the impression with rival teams inquiring about Coby that they are more open to trading White than they ever been. Now, what does that mean, right? That means that, hey, we're listening to offers we may realize, and listen, this could have happened during the losing streak. This could happen during any place that the Bulls have been telling teams are seeming more open to listening to trade talks for Coby. I love that Marc Stein did point out as well that it does not mean that it's going to happen. Sometimes people have the habit of taking these reports as, oh, you hear that? The Bulls are going to trade Coby, which it doesn't really mean that, but it does mean that they're listening to offers. The question then becomes about if they move on from Coby, what do they want back? What is the value that they've asked for back? Because we've seen the Bulls, they have had players that other teams have been interested in, but then they ask for some type of ridiculous value, then they strike out and then turn around and try to trade the player later, right? I've said this before. The Bulls have this option to trade Coby at this trade deadline. They also have the option because they have the room to re-sign everybody and then try to move them later if they decide to do that. It depends on what route the Bulls want to go with this. But overall, I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know exactly what the Bulls are going to do here. I think that all options and opportunities are open to this team as things stand right now. And it just comes back to that evaluation that they're doing between now and the trade deadline. And with getting everybody back healthy now by the end of December, that leaves you basically 5 weeks that you have now to decide before you then need to start locking in on some trade talks at the beginning of February. And so we'll see what happens there. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Hearing that Coby White is available, is maybe more available than ever thought before. Do you think that makes it more likely that the Bulls actually move him? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. We got one voicemail after the game yesterday. This one's from my brother Corn.
What's the word, Team Drip? It's your brother Corn, man. Let's get right into it, man. Hey, that last message that I sent, I'm doubling down. I'm doubling the fuck down. This is why I still have faith in this team. This is why it makes some people mad. I still have faith in Billy Donovan. I just knew that, call me crazy, I just felt like once we get more healthy and once the numbers start coming back and we get full strength again, that we was going to be a problem. And by God, we are becoming a problem again. Matas Buzelis. Been critical of you young Lion. Been very critical now. You've been having some slumps, inconsistency. But I said to myself in my mind, I said, all I want is one signature game from you. To give me a game that I can look at. Give me something that I can be looking forward to. That I can say, okay, he's moving in the right direction. Yes, he's probably going to have games where he's 3-11 and score 8 points. He might do that the next game, But I wanted a signature game for him this season. And he just did that shit. Good shit, young Lion. Good shit. Last but not least. I'm going to say it. I know people will be surprised. Shout out to Coby White. Sometimes he was forcing it, but that's just me being nitpickish. Sometimes he'd be off a little inconsistent, but then again, that's me being nitpickish. Shout out to Coby. Shout out to this team. Shout out to Matas. Shout out to this Bulls team. I still believe in this team. I still believe this team can be a 6th, 5th seed. I really do, man. I really do, and I'm going to stay with it, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm staying 10 toes down with this squad. Love you, Drip. C-Red. Blessings.
It's good to still have faith in this team because the season's not over with yet, right? And I get it. It's been a very rough season for the Chicago Bulls, but they played 28 games. There's still a lot of games left to play, and we've seen teams go through bad stretches and turn it around. So, I'm not necessarily saying that will be the Bulls. I'm just saying that the possibility is there, and it does exist that this Bulls team hasn't played their best basketball yet, and they may still have an opportunity to turn this thing around. We just got to see if they're going to do it, right? So we'll see. They just have to show and prove. That's really what it comes down with this team. Show and prove, and then we'll see what you got for it after that, right? Yeah, and how much they can sustain it. We've seen the stuff. Can you sustain it? As far as Matas' potential is out of this world. And that's why when people got a little bit down, and I know it comes with the Bulls fan, PTSD and all that, but when Bulls fans started talking about like, oh, we should trade Matas. Oh, Matas isn't that good. Oh, like, calm down. He's in his second year. He's 21 years old. Inconsistencies come with that point in time. And, you've seen what he can be. And you're not usually as good as your highs. You're not as bad as your lows. But when you're a player as young and as raw as what Matas Buzelis was and how much, he still has left to round out his game, it's not done. Matas is not done growing yet. And we'll see where that ends up leading the Bulls, right? As far as Coby's Coby. He's a super talented player. He's going to have times where he frustrates you. He's going to have times where he saves your team. That's the Coby White experience. The inconsistencies were less last season. They've been back to that this season, and I don't know if that's just coming back from injury or whatnot for Coby White. We're going to just have to see how that goes, but, the Bulls are going to have to try to figure that out. Unfortunately, they lost out on a big chunk of games of being able to evaluate Coby White this year because of his injury, which could play a part into the evaluation depending on how you want to look at it. He's played 12 games this season. 12. That's it. 12 games this season. And, it is what it is when it comes down to that. I believe the Bulls are 6-6 in games where Coby White plays. So we still got a lot of time left to see exactly who Coby White's going to be in this team. But the Bulls are at 500 when they're playing with Coby White. And let's see if it can get above that. So that's it. I don't know what else to say on that one, but thank you for the voicemail there, Corn. And we'll see. If you made it this far, I already know you guys rock with the channel, but show us you rock with us again by hitting that like button or subscribe button. This team has given us hope again, but hope and trust are two very different teams. The Bulls have to prove that this is more than just another hot stretch for this team. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Drop a like if you can. Sound off in the comments. Always want to hear how you guys feel on this one. How do you feel about the Coby White trade talks? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.